Hi,
How you doing?
I'm hanging in there. How are you, friend?
Good. I'm doing very well. Blessed.
It's
What's
been
been?
a hot minute since I've seen you.
Yeah, it
Where
was.
we're in LA, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was L.A. or Super Bowl.
Oh, you know what?
It was
It was
Super.
it was Super Bowl. It was
Yeah,
Super Bowl.
yeah, because I was out there doing some stuff for with Martellus, of course, and doing
My
some
my
stuff.
bestest friends.
Yeah,
He's
so,
such a solid guy, I tell you.
yeah. But thank you so much for joining the Dessie show today.
Of
Um,
course.
I know you were like, okay, now what you want me on this show for? What we talking about?
Like, what you want to talk about? Like, what you got me up here saying? Because you know I'm a
Yeah.
leader and I'm liable to say anything.
It's all good. I know you do really, really great work, and I wanted to talk to you about that career and how it's been affected by the pandemic as well. But we obviously met and worked together on the mostly football show through Complex and Yahoo Sports. So I want to kind of take it there. So where did your career start? Because I know you do booking and different things like that for shows. So where did that kind of start at?
So let's just go all the way back to the beginning. I started back in 2005. I know that dates me a little bit. At ESPN, I had a great mentor and a really lovely woman who took me under her wing. We had worked together in DC. So let me bring it back even further. I went to Howard University.
Yeah.
I finished Howard in 2003,
Okay.
and I decided I was working for as a marketing and sales coordinator
Mm.
for Disney Regional Entertainment. And at Disney Regional Entertainment, it was the ESPN Zone, which is kind of like a Dave and Buster's at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So we used to do events, and we had corporate partnerships and all types of community engagements, and we used to do like the sneaker ball and things like that at the space. So my job was to manage our events and coordinate sales pitches and marketing strategies and all these things fresh out of school.
Yeah.
So at the end of 2004, I'd been doing it for a while. I guess we were around the summertime. I decided that I wanted to go ahead and move to New York.
Okay.
So I have folks over there, and I said there was an ESPN Zone here in Times Square, and I said, "Oh, can I transfer?" They were
Yeah.
like, so I transferred to Times Square. I said, this is why I want to take a little quick sub break. And I go on tangents, so Dessie, feel free to reel me back in.
Yeah.
This is why your relationships are so super important,
Absolutely.
specifically for what I do, but just in life and in general. And anybody that knows me will know that I'm that type of person where I roll up to you, I start talking to you, and then the wheels start turning. And not for any reason other than I'm like, wow, I think I know somebody that does what she does and might could help him and that type of thing. I just sent one of those blanket holiday emails, like, oh, I just want to wish everyone in my contact list. And
Yeah.
people did that back in 2004. So I was like, I want to send everyone a happy holidays. So
Yeah.
this woman who I'd worked with through the zones, was now at ESPN. She was director of talent relations at ESPN. And she saw in my signature that I was in New York. And she wrote me right away. And she said, oh my God, you're in New York. And I said, yeah, I am. And she said, I have a job for you. I didn't interview, but she'd worked with me back in DC, and I'd interned. She'd plugged me with internships in radio, because that's really, really where I started in entertainment. I was an intern at WKYS under Dion Burkett and the promotions team down there at KISS in DC.
Radio One.
Radio One, exactly.
And I don't know if you knew that I came from radio too.
I did not. I did
Yeah.
not.
I used to
I
be.
thought I was going to be in radio. I thought I was going to work in radio. And then I
Yeah.
had an advisor that was like, the radio might die. So,
Yeah. So I was Tom Joyner's assistant.
oh, well, okay. You know what? I think I did know that. I heard some stories.
Yeah. We had.
So eventually I left from DC, moved to New York, sent that holiday email, got a response back from her. She says, I need coordinator in talent. Would you be up for it? And at the time I was over what I was doing anyways. So
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. It was such a whirlwind. So here I am now, again, dating myself, this 25-year-old kid, and I'm traveling all over the country, and I'm staying at 4-star properties.
Yeah.
With the world's biggest athletes. So working for ESPN and talent. And as a coordinator, basically all I did was, it started off as I made travel arrangements and protected, kept databases and, made lunch runs and, just made sure everything was in order. But
Yeah.
then get to know who all the major players are. And then next thing you know, I'm booking. And at the very core of what I still do is booking. So
Yeah.
essentially, let's say you manage Martellus, and for example, and I'll call you and I'll say, hey, Dessie, I have this project for Martellus. We want him to do an interview for, I won't even give one of the guys that we work with. We want to just do an interview for a TV show. And you'll say, great. And you and I will work out the time. Maybe I'll pass it off to my coordinator to manage the logistics.
Yeah.
But get it set up, we get the interview done, and then I move on to the next person while maintaining the relationship. And I may do that 50 times a day with a bunch of different types of talent across a bunch of different platforms.
Yeah.
So that's at the core of what I do. It gets much larger. And in the case of Martellus and some other people that I worked with, even on that show, I also manage more partnerships and long-term deals.
Mm-hmm.
So their attorney, I'll work with their management, and we come up with a deal. And there's a financial aspect of it and a legal aspect of it.
Yeah.
It makes sense for all the parties involved.
Yeah.
And then, we make deals between. I mostly represent multimedia, so we can get into that later too. I know I'm just going off here, but I started my own company. I did it for 7 years. But the crux of what I do is working for and managing talent relations for media companies.
Yeah.
And I'm currently a Bleacher Report.
Right. So, I know you were always in New York, even when you were with Complex, right? You would just come out to the West Coast for periods of time, right?
That's the other beautiful thing about what I do. I can do it from anywhere. So while my home base is in New York City, that project happened to be in Los Angeles. So you got to see me, once or twice a month. I was back and forth. I had a coordinator based in Los Angeles who managed the day-to-day, but I ran the show from in the very quarantined way through video chat day-to-day.
And then how long have you been at Bleacher Report? Because I know that was a big thing when you came over there, and it was funny because I was in contact with Bleacher Report working on some stuff for Kamaru Usman, and they were like, "Yeah, email Heather," and I'm like, "I know Heather."
Yeah, exactly. So I fought it. I fought it a little bit for a while because I wasn't sure if being in-house was what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I'd worked on my own through my own company for 7 years. I'm very vocal. I'm very opinionated. I stand on my own principles, and getting along in the corporate space is a skill in itself. So I realized back in 2013, we launched Fox Sports 1. I managed the only New York-based production for FS1 back in 2013, and I realized then I could do this for myself, like I could basically have my own company. I could contract myself out as a loan out through my company and still book all the same talent, still work with all the same people, still get all of the same work done without having to be under somebody's umbrella. And it worked out. I did it for 7 years. And Bleacher, it was funny because and this is a little bit of tea, but I was working for Complex, and we would have these town hall meetings, and they would give out these reports, and it's just fact, so it's not messy, but they would say, okay, so we're number 2 in this, and we're number 3 in that, and we're number 4 in that, but they were always behind Bleacher. Yeah. So my thought was like, okay, so Bleacher's next. That's what I'm gonna go work with next. So there was a position that became available, and people kept coming to me and saying, hey, you would be great for this, you would be great for this, you would be great for this, and I didn't think anything more about it. I was like, what, maybe I'll talk to them, maybe I'll see if there's an opportunity to freelance and contract with them. And then that same mentor that brought me into ESPN said, listen, my great friend is hiring for this role, reach out to her. And we talked about it, and I said, oh great, so we'll get a contract going. And she said, oh no, this is full-time. And I was like, oh, I gotta go there, like I gotta every day I gotta be like a part of that. And she was like, yeah. So she was like, unfortunately that's the only way to do it. This is what we need. And so we talked, we went back and forth. Obviously I had to make sure it was the right fit for me, and we got everything aligned and the numbers and everything, and I took the job. So now I'm full-time in-house staff for Bleacher Report. My company's still going, it's not defunct, but I am not the head or face or currently running it myself, as it not
Yeah.
to be a
But,
um,
but yeah, I wanted to talk back about relationships because relationships are extremely important. Like you and I connected at Complex first off, but you know when we met, it was just like automatically we typed. So you know, so we could have conversations about our show with Complex and Yahoo Sports, but we could also have conversations about things beyond that and things outside of that. And you know, like, man, we don't know why. Look, they should be putting these people on the show as guests, but why are they not selecting these people?
that, right? So we used to get big headaches over who should be on the show. And, you know, I'd been doing it for 13, 14, 15 years at the time. And I'm thinking I'm the expert at that, but somebody else felt like they knew better. So it was a struggle with that particular production. And that's part of it. You know what I mean? Like,
And then, and
how to
then,
get with
look,
show
Memphis,
EPs and
right?
find them between what I feel I know to be true and what they want for their production.
You're right. And then you left us, and then they got a new person handling the booking, and I was doing the booking. It was like they should have gave me that check instead of him.
Buddy.
What?
But you didn't book nobody. That show had 0 guests after I left. 0.
It had comedians. I'm talking about the comedians. I booked all the comedians after you left.
In it had. Now, first of all, there was a comedian on the show. I'm sure that helped. James Davis was a host on the show.
But
what?
It was.
Go ahead. Come on, I'll wait. I looked at those reports because I still work Complex. I just no longer work for mostly football.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But
and we said what's going to happen was going to happen, and Marty fully supported it. You know, and I didn't want to be anywhere that didn't make any sense. You know, I didn't want to force it, but everything that we had said that made sense for the show made sense. And when the producers decided that's not what they wanted to do, then the show gets canceled.
Yeah. Well, you know, even with that, they offered a season 2, and you know how Marty is. You know how Marty is.
Yeah. And he passed.
Exactly. You're right.
But yes, relationships are so important because, again, the woman that hired me way back in 2004 for ESPN was the same woman who said to her good friend, who is the head of talent at Turner, she never recommends anyone. She says, I only recommend one person for this role, and that's Heather. And here we are. So, you know, I had to learn this too growing up. You know, it's easy to just be like, oh, well, screw it, fuck them. You know, not for nothing. When you don't agree with somebody, or when somebody does something that kind of rubs you the wrong way, then it's easy to just write them off and be like, oh, I'll move on. That will come back. It may not come back to that person. It may not even come back to that agency. But somehow the way that comes back, there's a way to finesse it. There's a way to not get along, not agree, you know, really, really, really dislike somebody, honestly, and keep things in such a way that the business doesn't get messed up. Nobody can ever then come back and say you're that difficult to work with, or you're impossible, or you're not flexible. Yeah,
because that word does travel, and it's just corporate etiquette at the end of the day.
For sure. But times where, and you know, and I'm going to say this very candidly, as a Black woman, there are times where people don't exercise corporate etiquette with me. You know, there are times when sexism does exist, racism does exist, and I am not shy about speaking up for myself. And that comes with time and confidence. And you know, it's like, I know how good I am at what I do. I know I can take talent and go somewhere else. So while there's flexibility that you exercise, especially in a corporate space, that respect also has to be maintained, because you that confident within your value as you're growing. You know, we all take bumps as we're coming up, just trying to figure it out, trying to learn, trying to understand the business, you know, and we all swallow things. We all run and get coffee. We've all had projects taken from us. We've all had someone take credit for the work we've done. That's going to happen. But as long as that core of respect, especially nothing you have anything to do about, with being a Black person or being an Asian or any other race, you know, don't let anybody diminish your value or your worth based on things you have absolutely no control over.
And talk about kind of like what you're working on now, since obviously nobody else can move around. So you're still booking, but you're booking in a different way right now.
1000%. So when this started, and my company's been amazing. We're under AT&T, then we're under Warner Media, and then we're under TNT Turner. So when I tell you, and they said to us, listen, no layoffs, we're not letting anyone go. There's not any, we're not pulling back on hours or any of that to anybody. I felt so relieved because I'm like, wow. And it also has to do with alignment, right? The case may be the same if I was still working for my own company. So here I had a support system, which reminded me that there's different ways to manage this. Like, there's not anything to feel bad that I'm not working for my company, my own company right now, because this was really a blessing. Having worked for BleacherReport through this and having that support, that foundation, and also that security, it's priceless. You know, I'm very grateful for that. But the work has gone triple.
Yeah.
I am working overtime now. Like, NFL draft still happened. We're very social based in nature anyways, unlike our parent company who was very live sports. So we're already very digital. The entire company's digital. We moved in a very linear, very fluid digital way, whereas Turner was very linear. So for us, it was nothing to keep going in a UGC type of way. So we're capturing content from artists and athletes where UGC is user generated content. So where they're going around their sneaker closets and then sending us the footage, or we're setting up Zooms and we're managing through it. Taylor Rooks, I manage Taylor Rooks. She's still doing live interviews every week. Master Tafatsian and Adam Lefko, they're all hosts on ours. They're doing interviews every day with talent, in addition to the content that we capture for all of our portfolio brands, which is House of Highlights.
And I have about 50 seconds. We can either go out and come back in, or you can, if you got anybody you need to shut out before we wrap, how you want to do it.
That's up to you, Dessie. I have another 15 minutes of nothing to do. I have a 4:15.
Okay. Then I'm gonna go out and come back in, and then we're gonna finish. Okay, perfect.